This is Access Ann Arbor.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Speaking of Dance with People Dancing. My name is Yma Johnson. I'm your host and moderator for the show today, and I have here with me Christina Sears-Etter. She's a dance educator and a dancer and the artistic director of locally based Ann Arbor company People Dancing.
Nice to be here, Yma. Thank you.
Great to be here with you. And Jessica Overton here in the middle. She is a dance artist and choreographer, as well as a dancer with People Dancing. And over here at the end, last but not least, Robert Spalding Newcomb, a composer and musician who's worked closely in collaboration with People Dancing.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here as well. People Dancing is, as I've mentioned, is a locally based dance company. It was founded in 1985 by singer-songwriter and dancer Lisa Trikian Hill. In 1999, Christina Sears-Etter was selected to handle the company's the company, and she has been at the head of its programming since that time. The company's mission is dual in its focus. It's to bring arts into the community, and also from a performance standpoint, and also from an educational standpoint. There's a commitment to bringing dance into the community at all levels to engage dancers at various levels of interest and expertise. Can you talk to us a little bit about what makes People Dancing different and unique as a company?
Sure, Yma, I sure can. Well, one thing that is unique about People Dancing is that we are very focused on innovative choreography and on excellent points of service programs, work in the schools, work in the senior centers, work with special populations. And additionally, we have a slightly different aesthetic. We do a lot of collaboration, multi-arts collaboration with composers, writers, scenic designers, visual artists, media artists, and so on. And we've done quite a bit of that since I took the helm in 1999. We also do special programs for children, but with a professional aesthetic. And the fourth thing that really makes us unique is that we do a lot of work in an improvisational modality, which is perhaps not done as much now as it was, well, perhaps not done as much in the Midwest, I would say, or in traditional dance troupes. And so that's something that we'd like to talk about today on Speaking of Dance Ann Arbor.
Fantastic. So I understand that People Dancing recently founded a festival. It's called Dance in the Mitten. Can you tell us a little bit about the process for developing that festival and about some of the people who are involved?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dance in the Mitten is a festival of performance and also master classes and workshops. And it's geared towards a dance-focused individual, but also a new dancer could try it out as well. And we serve youth all the way through semi-professional, professionals, and educators in the arts. And we really, what makes that unique is that it's multi-genre. So we don't just have modern dance, we have ballet, we have hip-hop.
Belly dancing.
Belly dancing.
We have
Yes.
belly dancing.
And it was just great fun. We had a really great time. We had 3 full days of master classes that were supported by Eastern Michigan University Department of Music and Dance, and then we had 2 complete showcase concerts at Riverside Arts Center, and we had 52 performing artists represented over the 2 evenings in the showcase concerts. And one thing that I'd like to address tonight with our viewers is that we were able to perform a very interesting piece called Matrices for the 3rd time in history at the Riverside Arts Center, and the 3 of us were all involved in that production.
All right. Well, now we have a treat for everyone. We're going to take a look at the first video feature from on Speaking of Dance from Matrices. And let's take a look.
Here we go. that's important to add.
You think it's important to start with? Hello, and we're back. That was an amazing piece there. I'm really curious to hear about the philosophical underpinnings behind doing this kind of dance and the interaction between you as a composer, Robert, working with the dancers, and how your creative process is impacted by the fact that the piece is improvisational.
So I can answer that.
Yeah,
So
please.
the history of the piece, Christina sort of touched on it. Generally, this has been a solo piece that I've performed on guitar, lasting about 10 to 12 minutes. So it has sort of a trajectory, musical trajectory that I've composed. That's what we call it, a structured improvisation. When Christina approached me to do a collaborative piece, this one just jumped out as me as this is the one to do, because it has a real freeness to it, and I felt that the choreography could be built sort of within it and around it, and it's worked out just wonderfully. So something I wanted to bring up was I had a phrase go through my head of sort of inhabiting the same space as the dancers as I improvise, because this is fully improvised. I mean, I'm sitting there feeding off the movement, and hopefully the movement is responding, interactively with what's going on sonically. So it's just a wonderful melding or emerging.
It sounds very dynamic. I was not aware of the fact that you too were improvising. I thought that it was just coming from the dancers.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what note's coming next.
Which was very interesting from a dancer point of view, because sometimes when you do dance and it's a very structured piece, there's musical cues, there's things to go off of that remind you what you're supposed to be doing or where you should be. And when the music is improv and the dance is improvised, it's just, you just are. And you have to be in the moment right then and right there, and and the experience that comes out of it is just very enlightening and heartwarming, and you almost feel or hope to feel that the audience has that same embodied experience as to they don't know what's going on, you don't know what's going on, but just to see all of this create a delicious dish of jambalaya for the eyes is
really satisfying.
It is very satisfying.
It's a very special feeling to dance, well, to perform in any piece, but to perform improvisationally. Jessica and I had the privilege, we were each other's partners. You couldn't see that in the clip that we showed because we started somewhat in the middle. But all the dancers entered 2 by 2 with a partner, and we actually belonged to separate matrix. We were in separate matrices, so that's matrices. There were actually 2 sets, and each partnership split. And so we had the
Matrix A.
Yeah, Matrix A downstage.
Matrix B.
Upstage. And we had this relationship that even though we were distant from each other in space, we had to keep an eye on each other. And also keep an eye on Robert and kind of
Robert had his own matrix.
He had his own matrix.
Robert had his own.
But there's a
box.
reaching out towards each other that any performer needs to do, whether that's an actor or a dancer or a band. But it's a very unique way of reaching out when you don't know what's coming next and you're really thinking on your feet, making decisions quickly. And the trust bond, I think we were talking earlier about the trust bond that forms within the cast. And because we had an opportunity to perform not with an identical cast, but many of the dancers were the same, we performed this in November twice, 2012, at Sweet Pairings, which is a concert of music and dance that People Dancing produces, and then again in the festival setting. And it was really wonderful fun, and it's also a little scary. Your heart is beating faster, and it's not unlike probably the feeling that a skier gets when they're at the top of the hill and they're about to go on this great ride, because anything can happen on the ride.
Yeah. Well, Jessica was talking about cues, and I think it's interesting because, like I said, this evolved out of a piece that I'd done, and I have sort of a sequence of guitar sounds or patches that everyone can see and hear in the clip. But those are not entrance points at any given point in time. They're just kind of mood changes or energetic morphs or evolutions as the piece itself evolves. So one performance, a given patch may be 3 minutes long. Another one, it might go on for 10 minutes, depending on what the dancers are, how they're working through their bonds and their relationship to the sound. So this is the sort of the ultimate of being completely present in the moment. For me, it's my body because my body's doing the music, but it's the heart, the spirit, the mind, all kind of, we're all in one, we're all in one place.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it special.
It's fascinating. And, you know, by the way, I wanted to point out, I've not seen this clip before. And I haven't seen the part prior to it, so I didn't know about the entrance between the two of you. But it was actually apparent to me, I hadn't seen the part before, but I did see this clip briefly before we came on, and it was apparent to me that there was a connection between the two of you. So it's very interesting that you actually come on stage together. That connection is apparent. Even though I wasn't it wasn't organically clear to me why, but there was something that was going on between the two of you. I'm also interested to hear from you all about the choice of the name for the piece, Matrices. It's, you know, a very, it evokes very huge kinds of existentialist imagery and, you know, and ideas. And so I'd like to hear, and math. I'd like to, I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, since I came up with the name first, to me, a lot of my music and compositionally and improvisation has to do with sort of our path through life. Not to get too philosophical, but I mean, that's what we're about. We're artists. And so a lot of my titles kind of reflect an attempt to build some kind of verbal structure around describing the human situation. And this Matrices really just sort of felt like we're constantly being placed in complex situations and moving from one way of inhabiting those places to the next. And so this just kind of seems like, imagery-wise, I don't want to say cubes, but just some sort of spatial surroundings in which you grow, evolve, interact with others, and then you all of a sudden find yourself somewhere else. And you've got to take those lessons learned and continue your journey.
Your evolution and your
And I think the choreography has really took that and ran with it.
Well, we had an interesting journey with the choreography because it was 3 dancer choreographers, and they're listed on the title there, and they're company members, and we worked together and we all made a small portion of it. So we all made, you know, a little gesture and taught it to each other, and we used technology to assist in that. We recorded rehearsals, we sent the video to dancers because we rehearsed a very short amount of time, a petite rehearsal period.
For this one.
Yes.
For this
Very
one, it was
petite
very
rehearsal
small.
period.
I was actually invited into Matrices, and for the first rehearsal, it was Amy, I, Christina, and Robert.
That's
And
right.
That was what Matrices was right then and there. I got to learn the 3 phrases.
Yep.
And then we sat for a moment and tried to figure out how we wanted them to go, where we created a dance score, and that was our first day.
Okay, so the idea of the structured improvisation has to do with, there's a sort of core pattern. So that's the difference between structure and, say, just sort of moving in space, is that you're feeding off of a specific pattern and idea.
Pretty much.
Maybe
I mean,
there's a place we're going,
Yeah.
or maybe there's a certain movement that takes you to the center, and then you all expand out.
But you can have as many structures to an improvisation, like to fill that red book, you know, the dictionary. Like there's that many possibilities for structuring an improvisation. But I really riffed off Robert's piece, and more so even the question that I asked him, because I always like to go by what scene first, you know, concrete. And so we had a conversation on email where I said, talk to me about the title. What is it about? And Robert was a little bit evasive, and
No.
It was
Composers, evasive?
a little
Improvisers.
ambiguous. And I thought, okay, the ambiguity is kind of part of it. The mystery, to me, was part of it. And the idea of the mystery of evolving and the mystery of growing and changing. And I wanted to try to find that mystery and trust the process. And I think the process Jessica was describing, I want to bring up that that's a very organic process. It's a holistic process. There's a model of shared leadership and trust at the heart of the process. And I think that's something that's really special about the company that I wanted to highlight. That it's not a top-down company. It's not a company where one artist or even the artist that's running the rehearsal doesn't have a tight rein, you know, over the process.
It's very collaborative amongst
very
everyone
collaborative.
who's a part of the company. It's very much, everyone gets to put in a say, and everybody's opinion is taken and thought about. And, you know, not, of course you can't keep them all, but
Right.
everyone gets a chance to say something. Everyone gets a chance to provide movement. And we just kind of put it all together. As far as matrices went, when we did the structures for the very first part all the way to the fourth part, we had 4 basic, I guess, not formations. I wouldn't call them formations, but they were 4 parts of matrices that we had put together, and that was part of our structure. When were we going to become one unit? When were we going to move in unison? When were we going to break away from that unison and go into taking the different parts of the phrases that we'd learned and making them our own and creating this improv separately but together in the 2 separate matrices. And then, let's see what else happened. It was all, it happens.
We're using a lot of adjectives and a lot of verbs in terms of, you know, congregating, separating, you know, becoming one, becoming separate.
So we divided.
Yep, yep. And it's
And we added.
musically, my
Yes.
role, I think, was to try to understand where they were in their migration through these activities, or you know,
Wow.
and somehow mirror that energetically. Not necessarily ascending means climbing. It's not that sort of a literal thing. It's more understanding the musical substance that I'm playing with here, a guitar, single instrument, basically some electronics, but and somehow mirroring what's going on so that it's amplified and exposed or illustrated further, you know, to the audience, and also reflected back to the dancers.
I wanted to address the reflecting back because I'm somewhat synesthesia. I have synesthesia where sometimes the senses cross each other. So when I'm dancing, for instance, to Robert's music with a group of dancers, I feel that I'm just almost mirroring back the music. And
That's
it's
wonderful.
interesting because it becomes who's looking at who, you know,
Yep.
Right.
it's hard to figure out where the beginning is and where the end is because
Yep.
there's this linking, a close linking. Oh,
And-
I was going to say the video that we had our DVD video release party too. So if people wanted to watch the whole piece or the whole concert series, they could do that.
And they can contact People Dancing specifically for you specifically, but we'll have contact information about the company that will come up before the end of the show, and that will be also applicable for getting the DVDs as well.
That's right. That's right.
Fantastic. So can you talk to me about a little bit about what is the best thing about improvisation? I think we've touched on that a little bit, but I'm also really curious about the challenges. You talked about trust, and
also a challenge.
it seems to me it's a whole nother level of trust. I mean, when I think of trust in dance, I think of something like, you know, perhaps some of the dangerous or dramatic lifts that that might be done in a piece, but those, you know, the advantage that the liftee, for lack of a better
The
term,
dancer in the air.
the dancer in the air has, is that they know that this is coming. I mean, and there's an expectation of where things are going. So I'm curious about how you talked about the fear, and I'm curious about hearing more about those challenges and the things that are the most satisfying about it.
I feel that with improv, with trust, it's more of a self-trust and a letting go. Being able to or allowing yourself to be a part of this group of people and not think about what you've learned, but so much not even think, but so much allow your body to just move in the way that it wants to move. And being confident in that movement and not feeling as though everybody's staring at you. Just being able to offer a release for yourself and for the people around you. And sometimes out of that, it creates these lifts that you would think of with the dancer in the air, with contact improv. Definitely, there are those moments where you're just giving all of your weight to someone and finally you just go, carry me. And next thing you know, you're in the air, you're being thrown, and that's your improv. And that's that trust. Once again, not only are you trusting this person that you've given all of your weight to, but you're trusting yourself as well. And you're just offering yourself that release to just be, because everybody often is very guarded, whether you're dancing or you're interviewing or no matter where you are, we often have these guardings. And for me, improv allows me to let my guard down. It allows me to just explore myself as a dancer and explore other people.
Excellent.
There's something in our motto as a company that talks about connecting at a deep level and really finding authenticity. And I think that the experience of improvising, and I've been improvising for a long time, as I'm sure that you both have as well, the experience of going into that unknown zone, I think is kind of a preparation for, diving into real authenticity and life, and it goes into your life, and your life comes into the improv as well, and that's true of all performing arts, I think. I mean, there's that permeable barrier between life and art, but especially, I mean, I just enjoy improvising with this particular group. It was a fabulous experience. To me, one of the challenges is when you're doing an improvisation and it doesn't go well, when the guard is too high. And I've been in several of those situations. I wouldn't say that the stakes were really high when that happened, but it doesn't leave you with, it's kind of like a bad.
It was one of those, that's an all right. I guess that was
That was
all right
okay.
kind of feeling, instead of, wow, we were really together. It felt just, the energy on stage just felt so great. And then I understand what you're saying. It's just every now and then it's like,
But that's part of, I think, the progress of developing artistry in this one area, is that you can kind of cultivate a skill level at it and a good, better, best kind of thing. So you can't always expect to have that peak experience like we had with Matrices. I mean, I think it was really a peak experience. Did you have a peak experience?
Peak experience.
Yeah.
Let me speak to that. Crank up the amp. But, yes, peak experience. But I did want to say, right to your immediate question, what are the challenges? I think one of the way you would, well, here we go. The definition of success as a performing artist, I think, is very different when the core is improvisation and the sharing and the opening of the heart and the letting the guard down. And so if all those attributes are in play, I mean, you've already succeeded. I mean, the artifact that you build together is unique to that moment. You know, everybody's lives sort of converging on a 10-minute chunk of time or whatever it might be. But I think the challenge is to allow yourself to get to that point. Well, and if everyone in the group can reach that simultaneously, then it's golden.
Fantastic. That's a beautiful way to wrap things up here. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. People Dancing is looking for board members and volunteers. You can contact Christina. The contact information will be posted here at the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
And we're going to be at Art Fair July 20th, 4 p.m., Fountain Stage, duet performance.
Thank you so much.